For the first time since I was in sixth grade, the Buffalo Sabres are in the playoffs. Thank God it is finally here. The drought is over. The longest drought in NHL history ends at 14 seasons. I don't know what we did to deserve this, but we endured the longest drought in NHL history and the longest drought in NFL history at 17 seasons. So that's a combined 31 seasons. And I am just so happy that we can put both of those in the rearview mirror because we finally have two good Buffalo sports teams. So now we finally know that the Sabres are hosting the Bruins for game one of the Eastern Conference first round series tomorrow night, Sunday night at 7:30 on ESPN. And I'm just going to say that I am still bummed out that we are not there today celebrating because currently right now when I'm recording, it is Saturday afternoon and it is 70, 75 degrees. It is supposed to rain soon, but man, I just wanted to be out and party in the plaza and the watch party at Canalside. I wanted to be living it up. And I know this is kind of selfish because I'm available today. I had today free. Tomorrow I am busy up until puck drop, so I can at least watch the game, but I just won't be able to attend any of the pregame festivities. But I think a lot of us were sharing those same sentiments where it's like, man, we've waited almost 15 full calendar years for this moment. And now the NHL says, well, you got to wait another day and a half now. We're going to put you on Sunday night. And a lot of people are going to have to wake up for work early on Monday morning. Luckily, I have Monday off. But still, it's just like, man, I wanted to just be soaking it up with everyone right now down in downtown Buffalo because that would have been a scene. And I really thought that the NHL would have wanted to kick things off with this playoff series by showing Buffalo going absolutely nuts. But you know what? You can't control what the NHL does. I know there's a lot that goes into it with the facilities management, with the different arenas. You know, the Celtics are playing, you have different concerts, you have lacrosse going on. So there's a lot that gets baked into it, but I was really hoping for that primetime Saturday afternoon slot where we could have been just going absolutely bonkers right now. And then the other screwy thing was that we didn't find out until almost midnight on Thursday night that the game was going to be at 7:30. So they waited until just about all the games were done to announce that the Sabres would be hosting the Bruins at 7:30, and then the full schedule didn't come out until 1 a.m. So that is just crazy. And it's been so long since the Sabres have been relevant that I forgot how screwed up things can get in terms of the NHL and scheduling, because I'm thinking about it from a Bills perspective, and I'm like, man, imagine if the Bills went to bed on Thursday night without knowing when they would be playing in Jacksonville, because that's the whole run up for the whole week. Oh, we're going to Jacksonville. So 1:00 kickoff. We're going to Denver. You know, whatever the time may be, you know, right from the get go when and where you're playing. But the NHL took so long. And I'm like, man, that is crazy that they took as long as they did to get all the logistics down because, okay, whatever, it's a fan perspective, but you're talking about the team, the media, the travel, the hotel, just everything that goes involved. I'm just very shocked that they did it like that. And I'm also not a fan of the playoff format. Now, I do like this first round matchup with the Bruins, as I will get into momentarily here, but I just don't like the fact that you could have two teams like Montreal and Tampa, and then you go to the West and you have Dallas and Minnesota. All those teams finished with 104 plus points. Dallas finished with 112, and they might not even make it out of the first round. Now, yeah, you have to be good enough to advance, so you have to give credit to the winning team, but I just don't think it's fair that two out of those four teams are going to be bounced out, and then you could have a team that's in the second wild card that has the advantage going into the second round. Now, personally, I would like to see the NHL go back to the days where they had the 1 seed playing the 8 seed, the 2 plays the 7, 3 versus 6, and then 4 versus 5, because that's what the NBA does. But what they've done to expand on that is they have this play-in tournament now. And I'll admit that I was not a fan of it at first, but I'm really coming around to it now because this way you have the 7, 8, 9, and 10 seeds all going for those final 2 spots. So the way it works is that the 7 plays the 8, the winner gets a 7 seed. Then you had the 9 playing the 10. The loser is officially done for the year. And then the winner plays the loser of the 7 versus 8. So that way, if you're one of those teams that's on the outside looking in, you still have a little bit of incentives to get in the postseason. Because look what happened in the NHL. Washington had 95 points, and that wasn't good enough to get in the postseason. And whatever, I don't really like Washington. Same thing with Detroit or Columbus. But these teams all had 92 plus points, and they're sitting home on their couches. So I think they have to do something with that format. But you know what? The Sabres are in, and that's all I care about. Okay, so as we dive into this matchup, I want to start by saying that We know that the Sabres haven't been in the playoffs since 2011, but I think it's misguided when people say that they don't have that playoff experience because I looked into this and the Sabres have 12 players who have played in a combined 387 career playoff games, led by Alex Tuch with 66. Tanner Pearson has 59. Luke Schenn has played in 58 playoff games. Ryan McLeod, 56. Jason Zucker, 52. Bowen Byram, 27. He also won that Stanley Cup with Colorado. Jordan Greenway has played in 22 playoff games. Logan Stanley's played in 17. Connor Timmins, 12. Sam Carrick, who is hopefully going to play. He's at least ruled out for this series. We'll see if he's able to return if the Sabres can advance. But Carrick's played in 10 games. Beck Malenstein, 4. And Alex Lyon, 4. So this team isn't that fresh to the playoffs. Have they been in the playoffs together as one team? No. But I think they do have the leadership that they need that can propel them. Another thing that I want to highlight about this matchup is that the Boston Bruins are the second most penalized team in the NHL this season. They had 372 penalties called against them and 978 penalties in minutes. Only the Tampa Bay Lightning have more penalties taken with 425 and penalty minutes with over 1,200. And that's pretty ironic because if the Sabres can get past the Bruins, there's a very good chance that they could be playing Tampa Bay in the second round because they get the winner of that Tampa Bay Montreal series. And that's another thing that I was talking about with this whole playoff format. It's just weird that all these teams are meeting in the first and second rounds. Regardless, though, it is crucial that the Sabres power play can finally get it together because that's been one of the biggest things that's been holding this team back. And maybe I shouldn't say holding them back because, I mean, they had 50 wins for just the third time in franchise history. They won the Atlantic Division. Everything's been great. But if there's one thing that they can improve on, it's the power play, which ranks tied for 19th. So they need to cash in on these opportunities, especially because Boston's penalty kill only ranks 24th. One other thing I want to say about this matchup before we get into the Bills and who they could select at pick number 26 on Thursday night is that the Sabres have this glue to their team that has really held them together and then propelled them over the last 4 months. Because we all know that they are led by Tage Thompson, Alex Tuch, and Rasmus Dahlin. Tage scored his 40th goal for the third time in his career the other night. Alex Tuch finished with 33 goals and 33 assists, and Rasmus Dahlin finished with 74 points and played great defensively as well. But as I noted here about a week ago, with these 5 glue pieces to the team, Josh Doan has 25 goals for the first time in his career. Jack Quinn has 20 goals for the first time in his career. Jason Zucker finished with 24 goals, and he was just 1 goal away from the third 25-goal season of his 15-year career. Zach Penson finished with over 40 points for the first time in his career, and Peyton Krebs finished just 1 point away from the 40-point mark. So as I noted there, those are the players that have really been able to hold this team together, and they do a lot of the dirty work too. I'll throw Beck Malenstein in there too. I mean, that guy leading the team in hits, scores these amazing goals. But as much as we talk about, Tage, Tuch, Dahlin, the defensemen that have been playing great as well, I think a lot of credit is owed to those players right there. And I just want to mention UPL as well, because it's pretty much his net for the rest of this series. And I think that is going to be a great matchup because a lot of the pundits are saying that if Boston wins this series, it's probably going to be because Jeremy Swayman can just out-goal a UPL due to that experience factor. But you know what? I think that the Sabres team is still better top to bottom, and that is why I have the Buffalo Sabres defeating the Boston Bruins in 6 games to move on to the second round. Now, speaking of moving on, let's move on and talk about the Buffalo Bills now. So as I mentioned, the Bills will be on the clock at pick number 26 on Thursday, and the Sabres play game 3 starting at 7 o'clock. So it should match up where the two won't conflict, but I kind of say this as a joke, but I am serious. I think that I am on team trade back, not for the Sabres perspective, because that way if you trade down into Friday, we can completely focus on the Sabres Thursday and then completely focus on the Bills on Friday. But I think it makes sense from a roster standpoint because that way they can recoup that second round pick that they lost in the DJ Moore trade. And I don't know exactly the value that they see in some of these players because Brandon Beane says almost every single year that they do not have 25 plus first round grades. And this is regarded as a generally weaker draft class this year. So if that's the case, maybe the Bills should trade down, get more value, and that way they have more assets to build up their team in the meat and potatoes portion of this draft. Because in no particular order, this team still needs an edge rusher, a nose tackle, a linebacker, a safety, boundary corner, wide receiver, and interior offensive line. So they still have plenty of needs. That's why I think if you trade back, trade down into Friday, hopefully you have 3 day 2 picks as opposed to just one, because they do have pick number 91 right now. So you trade out of the first round and then potentially have 3 picks in rounds 2 and 3. One of those might have to get shed to Saturday, but either way, I just think it makes more sense to get some more assets to continue building this team. Now, if there is one guy that I would want the Bills to select at pick number 26 without trading down and say, you know what, you better just take him now before you miss out on him, it is this guy right here, Casey Concepcion, the wide receiver from Texas A&M. And it seems like he's a fan favorite already. It's a lot of Bills fans' favorite idea for the Bills because we know that they could still use another wide receiver. Yeah, they did get DJ Moore, but what do you have behind him? It's a lot more of the same from last year. And DJ Moore's contract is 3 years. You could potentially get out after 2. I think you need to groom someone as a potential future wide receiver 1. And I think this would be a great wide receiver 2 in the meantime. So this guy is 6 foot, 196 pounds, and he's just very silky smooth and a great route runner. And let's take a look at what Lance Zierlein said about him here on NFL.com. So he's a projected first round pick. Now he compares him to Doug Baldwin, but I've seen other comps to Emmanuel Sanders and more recently Zay Flowers, just to give you an idea of what this guy can do. So Zierlein says that Concepcion offers immediate burst and separation into space. He's elusive in beating press and getting into breaks with minimum damage from handsy coverage. While he has a one-speed approach, he can snap off routes with alarming suddenness, making him extremely difficult to match at leverage breakpoints. He's instinctive against zone. He's also a nightmare for man coverage on choice routes and near the goal line. He's quicker than fast, with more value on utility throws, utilizing run after catch. Concepcion's ability to quickly uncover should be very appealing to teams with spotty protection and a young quarterback. Now, obviously, the Bills do not have either of those two, but I think this is still a great pick for the Buffalo Bills. Another guy that I could see them totally drafting is Caden McDonald. So McDonald is your stereotypical nose tackle. He's listed over 6'2", 326 pounds, and he's regarded by most as the best run defender in this draft class. And as we scroll down here and look at the analysis by Lance Zierlein, so he's projecting him to go in rounds 1 or 2. So this might be a case where the Bills could potentially trade down and get him early on Friday, but they might just find the value at 26 and say, you know what, this is a position of need. We need to address it. Let's get him here at 26. And oddly enough, the NFL comparison is DJ Reader. And this is a guy that I was wanting the Bills to sign. I still want them to sign DJ Reader. But DJ Reader's turning 32 years old in July. Maybe if you want a 21-year-old version of him, you can just draft Caden McDonald. So Zierlein says, a talented run defender, McDonald plays natural leverage and rattles pads with his initial contact. He's quick to locate ball carriers, play off of blocks, and rally to the action. His technique is a bit underdeveloped, and he's not a natural drain clogger against double teams, but he still managed an unusually high tackle rate as an interior defender. Quicker hand strikes should allow for more efficient reps and earlier wins at the point. He offers limited rush value. So that's the main thing right there, that for as much as he gives you defending the run, he's not the best at rushing the passer. So as Zierlein says, his money will be made by giving grief to centers and guards as an even front nose tackle with starting potential. So those are the two guys that I'm looking at here for the Bills in the first round potentially. There are some edge rushers that I've been coming around to. A lot of people have been talking about Cassius Howell and his short arms. I don't know if that's something that the Bills would want to go after. Joe Marino and Chris Trapasso have been really talking up Malachi Lawrence lately. So those are some edge rushers to keep your eyes on as well. But, I still think that trading down is going to be the move this year because as we take a look at some linebackers, because that's still a big position of need for the Bills, in my opinion, you have CJ Allen from Georgia, Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech, Jake Golday from Cincinnati, and Josiah Trotter from Missouri. And I don't know if those guys are going to be there at 26. I mean, they're going to be there, but I don't know if there's going to be the value there at 26. So that might be a case where the Bills would want to trade down. But then you look at some of the wide receivers as well, and there are a lot of names here that could be available for the Bills. Starting with Mekhi Lemon, I've seen some mocks where he's dropped to 26. His NFL comparison is Amon-Ra St. Brown. So maybe you want to just take him at 26 if he's there. A couple of other guys that I want to highlight: Omar Cooper Jr., Jordan Tyson, and Denzel Boston. So just a few notes on those wide receivers before we wrap things up here. Jordan Tyson might be the best wide receiver in this draft class, but his problem is staying healthy. He's had injuries to his knee, collarbone, and hamstring, and he just cannot stay on the field consistently. And I don't know if that's something that the Bills are going to want to dip their toes into because we know how they've suffered so many injuries over the last few seasons. Omar Cooper seems like a very intriguing prospect, but he was a full-time slot receiver in 2025, but he racks up a lot of yards after the catch. So if Joe Brady wants to get another version of Khalil Shakir, I saw a comparison where he's compared to Deebo Samuel. Maybe they want to go the Omar Cooper direction. And then with Denzel Boston, I've seen some people say that this is just like another version of Keon Coleman, but I think he is better than Keon. Now, he is big, strong, the catch point, good hands, go up and get it, make the contested catch, but he does lack that athleticism and the speed. I think, again, he is projected to be a little bit better than Keon, especially at this point in Coleman's career. So the comps that I've seen were Michael Pittman, Cortland Sutton, and the big one is Puka Nacua. So I think he has a little bit more to offer than Coleman, but there are some wide receivers that the Bills could resort to on Friday and Saturday. Some day 2 and day 3 wide receivers to keep your eyes on over the next week here are Chris Brazell from Tennessee, Malachi Fields from Notre Dame, Eric McAllister from TCU, Antonio Williams from Clemson, Chris Bell from Louisville, and Skylar Bell from UConn. So there are a lot of names here. I think Casey Concepcion is my favorite one right now. And I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but he was born in Rochester and his dad is a Bills fan. So maybe the stars are aligning here where the Bills could get their future wide receiver one. But I want to know what you think. Drop a comment. Let me know which direction you want to see the Bills go in this draft. And also let me know how you're feeling about this Sabres series coming up versus the Boston Bruins. So thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Smash that like button. And like I said, drop a comment. And hopefully I will see you at a watch party at Canalside. Go Sabres and go Bills.